Roll call, please.
Commissioners Gershenson,
Here.
Joliet,
Here.
Jackson, Lubes,
Here.
Kokendorfer,
Happily here.
Nelson.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Excellent, thank you. Next up, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. If there aren't any corrections to the minutes dated April 5th, 2022, do we have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Lubes, support by Commissioner Joliet. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Minutes approved. Next up, we'll move on to the approval of our agenda. Do we have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Joliet, support by Commissioner Lubes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Agenda's approved. Next up, we'll move on to our first public comment. As a reminder, this is for items that are specific to the agenda at hand today. So at this time, if there's any individuals from the public who'd like to come forward, please make your way to the head of the table. State your name, city you reside in, and item in which you'll be speaking to. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Ross Baranco, Novi. The last time y'all had a meeting on these issues, there was a comment of a 50% work week, and I had asked a question about, well, how do you define 50% of 5 days? Is that 2.5 days? They come 3 days 1 week, 2 days the next week, or how does 50% of 5? So I was wondering if y'all have addressed that here, and that'll be defined better this time. And also on the hiring of the swimmers, the lifeguards, that I couldn't see the point of giving a bonus for doing part of the season. To me, it seems like you should only have the bonus at the end of the season and make sure they go through the whole season before they get any kind of bonus. And I wanted to make sure that that may have been addressed in the interim. And I'd like to see, what transpires here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ross. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to address the Legislative Affairs and Government Operations Committee during this first public comment? Seeing none, I will close public comment. Next up, given we've got no communication items, we'll move on down to our regular agenda. We've got item A, which is Human Resources Collective Bargaining Agreement fiscal years 2022 through 2025 with the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 324, for representing non-supervising employees in the facilities maintenance and operations / heating plant. Do we have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Loop, support by Commissioner Gershenson. Good afternoon, April.
Good afternoon. All right, so this one is the operating engineers. This is a new union for us. This is those specifically dedicated to our steam plant and operations with heating and cooling.
So does that mean it was not a non-union before?
Correct. So in this union, this was, we did some what we call classification adjustments for them. We actually aligned them more with the trades of boiler operators. They typically roll as it relates, they have different levels of operation, a level 1, level 2, and a level 3. And so we created space for those folks and those employees who are interested in getting more trades experience and building up their credentialing to get all the way up to a level 3. So that's the major change for them, as well as with all the other unions kind of bringing in alignment things that have, that they wanted to memorialize in their contract.
Excellent, thank you. Commissioners, Commissioner Gershenson.
Did you say 11 grades? There's grade.
No, there's each, when you're in a trade for boiler operation, there's 3 levels, level 1, level 2, and level 3.
And so they're starting at level.
It depends on where they are in their career and their credentials. Some of them already have all the credentials, some can work toward it, and so it allows them room for growth in that particular field.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, any further questions or discussion on this item? Seeing none, please prompt the vote.
Yeah, it's not letting me say yes. Oh, yeah, there we go.
Madam Chair, you have 5 yeas, 0 nays.
5 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Next up, we'll move on to our second item of the agenda, which is, again, Human Resources Collective Bargaining Agreement fiscal years 2022 through 2024 to supplemental with UAW Local 889 for representing Health and Human Services, supervisory and non-supervisory employees. Do we have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Lutz, second by Commissioner Gershenson. Again, welcome, April.
Yes. As you know, we had a master agreement with the UAW back in December of 2020. And since then, we've had a few supplementals that would attach to that master agreement. So again, very specific to the department's needs and that particular group of employees. In this instance, this is our Health and Human Services Division. They also have a nurses group that is in the Michigan Nurses Association. So this is all employees within Health and Human Services that are not nurses. And so just as we have in the past, I think you guys are becoming quite familiar. It memorialized things that were in play. Here, there was a little bit more specifics in how we do overtime and on-call, and also a lot of discussion around vaccine and protection there, just obviously due to COVID. So made a little bit more clarity for all of them in as it relates to pandemics or any type of future COVID exposure. So just more, again, aligning with what they do and memorializing as much as we could.
Excellent, thank you. Commissioner Gershenson.
So, elementary question here. So, you do all these different organizations together? Or you do them separate and it's the same contract?
Sure. Well, that's actually a different question depending on the time of year you ask me. So,
April, can you just bring your mic
because
closer?
they're new, the original, what we call the master agreement, was back in December of 2020. And so as new units come on, we deal with those specifically. Now, when this contract expires in 2024, I would imagine they will all come on they will come at the same time. So that's why it's just like one time, each time there's a unit.
Right, because it would seem like the UAW and some of the Health and Human Services have different needs, different requests.
Correct. So they took each unit, if you will, within the department and met with each of them individually and collectively. This is what you have. But when we go in 2024, when this expires, I would believe I would bring all of them and all of the other supplementals as well at one time. It'll be a pretty hefty contract.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, any additional questions, discussion on this item? Seeing none, please prompt the vote.
Madam Chair, you have 5 yeas, 0 nays.
5 yeas, 0 nays, a motion carries. Next up, we'll move on to our third item, which is item C, Human Resources Collective Bargaining Agreement Fiscal Year 2022 Wage Reopener with the Oakland County Employees Union affiliated with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 58, AFL-CIO. Do we have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Loop, support by Commissioner Jackson. Again, welcome, April.
Thank you. This is our IBEW, which is the electrical workers. They have a wage reopener this year. This will be their final wage reopener, and then we actually just started bargaining on Monday for their multi-year contract. So this will be the last individual date. And overall, it's just specifically on wages that they received a 4% increase for all classifications except for maintenance laborer, which is their lowest wage earners and has been the most difficult to fill and to keep due to the labor that they do each day.
Excellent, thank you. Commissioners, questions? Commissioner Kokendorfer, followed by Commissioner Joliet.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, April, for this. I understand the 6% that sometimes positions are more difficult to fill than others. The general 4%, though, across the board for the others, I think that's higher than we typically see in these. Can you elaborate a little bit more on why?
Sure. Again, most of these are our lower wage earners, all the way across the board, custodians, laborers, all of those that are out in the field, and all 3 units, there's actually 5 units in here, are all struggling with the same retention and attraction, as well as taking a look at market. So they were just, again, as we've been moving through all of our unions, we've been doing a little bit more focus on what the needs are of those particular departments versus a the same across the board because everybody has unique needs.
I have a follow-up, but I'll let whoever was after me come back to me if you could.
Sure, Commissioner Joliet, followed by Commissioner Gershenson?
No,
Nope,
I'm
you're
good.
good? Okay.
So you said this is the reopener and you're already, or you're beginning to start their multi-year contract. So will there be then another increase after this that will be
So
negotiated?
this is for the current fiscal year going back to October 1st. So the new one will come in, again, they're all effective October 1st. So as we go through this current negotiations, it will be for October 1st. And then we'll move on for whatever 3 or 4 years every October 1st.
And so when will they be eligible again for their next wage reopener?
October 1st.
This
of
year?
This
and-
year. Yeah, they have not had they have not had an increase this year so far.
Okay. I'm just concerned about, I recognize the need for retention and how it's hard to find employees, but I think that you could pretty much say that across the county. And I'm just concerned about the precedent that this will set in terms of a domino effect, in terms of the other unions that have negotiated in good faith, the 1.5% and the 2%. And I'm uncomfortable with what that means, with just 2%, 2%.
Understood.
Thank you. Commissioner Kokendorfer?
Are you good?
I'm good.
Commissioner Kurtz?
Yep.
Thank you. Just sort of piggybacking on that, I understand that technically it's a separate labor contract than our others, but it's hard to truly say any of these are separate because the others look to these as precedent. Are we concerned about the precedent that this may set despite the individual facts?
No, because while it is a factor, every union has had very specific needs these last go-arounds, and we only have 2 more contracts left. So right now, we're in the middle of both the sheriff and the command unit, and then IBEW starts a new one. So I will, of course, take into consideration what they received this year as we go into bargaining for this next go-around as well. All of that's taken into consideration. And we'll also be looking at market, as we always do with the multi-year contract, to see where everybody falls within what's going on in the area of Southeast Michigan.
And I understand that that's our position, but my hunch is that the other unions will see it differently, and so I do share Commissioner Joliet's concerns. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes. April, from my understanding, there's 9 Oakland County unions?
Oh, we have 11, I think, now.
We do have 11. So I'm learning with all these, at this point, we've had a lot of labor agreements come before us this year. And so is it, I understand that IBEW has a wage reopener, but they don't have a Metoo clause. Is that correct?
For this year.
Would you ever see an agreement come forward with both, or is it typically one or the other?
It's usually one or the other, and it's not that often for wage reopeners, so as we go into bargaining, I'll make sure that we take a look at that as we move forward.
Okay.
It's one or the other.
Commissioner Gershenson.
But then how does the Me Too clause affect those that aren't getting the extra 2%?
So what happens is when you have a Me Too clause, you have established a rate. So whether it's 2% or 1% or whatever was established during the time of the contract, the Me Too extends to any general salary increase that we do. So if we were to do a general salary increase at any given time, then if it was more than what was in the current contract, then they would be able to, those unions would be able to accept that. They would not be able to go below it, but they would be able to, they would take on the general salary increase that we gave to those non-represented.
Commissioner Joliet?
Just one
Followed by
quick question,
Commissioner Kokendorfer.
something you just said. So you said that they do not have a Me Too this year.
They do not.
Does that change on a year-to-year or a contract-to-contract
It depends.
basis?
Yes. Yep,
So
it
it can
depends if it
change. They
gets
could become a Me Too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Commissioner Kokendorfer.
Your points about the specific needs of each union is well taken. Are there any other job classifications within the county that are in other unions where they're having as difficult a time or worse with retention than this one?
Yeah, they're all a little different in that I think we're all feeling the great resignation, but these are the ones that they're having the hardest time because they're the lowest wage earners. It's hard when Wendy's is putting out $20 an hour, even though there's so much more to that story than that. That's been the struggle here. Everybody's hurting in some level, but this one, retention as well as the attraction is becoming more difficult for those that are working outside in the field in those laborer positions.
Are there any that are worse?
I don't have that in front of me, but I mean, I don't know. I don't have that answer, but I can find out kind of where we are with all of those units.
Yeah, and lay that because we don't have those facts in front of us, I'm so uncomfortable with it, but I appreciate it.
Well, yeah, I mean, law enforcement is another one. Thank you, Hillary. That one is huge. I mean, that one is beyond the Great Resignation, and it's an issue all the way around of lack of applicants and competing with each other. So that one, I would say of all of them, that would be probably the worst, but a very different problem. But thank you.
No, it stands out for me, and again, echoes back to my concerns about setting a precedent, but it's well appreciated.
And we're in the middle of negotiations with the sheriff's unit and command right now.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you. April, given that the IBEW, it sounds like they have a wage reopener in October 1st of 2022, already knowing that they have the 4% right now, which is higher, if they choose to, sorry for lack of better words, adopt, let's say, a Metoo clause, could they then, do they get then everything that has been given prior to October 1st that the other contracts who have Metoo clauses get?
No, so I hear what you're asking. So right now, remember, this particular salary increase is for October 1st of 2021 it started. So in 2022, we have a whole new contract. So it'll be a 22, 23, 24. If we go beyond that, it'll be all the way through 26. So I would negotiate that knowing, again, their history, where we are with everybody else, and what we plan on budget-wise. So it'll be basically a new contract for the next few years.
Thank you. Commissioners, further questions? Seeing none, please prompt the vote.
Pam, I'm gonna need to do a voice vote. Yes for me?
Oh, okay. Madam Chair, you have 4 yeas and 2 nays.
4 yeas, 2 nays, motion carries. Well, thank you, April, for coming before us again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, my God, there's like,
Something
yeah.
Something glitched there. Let's try this again. Like the internet
Chris,
might-
are you your workers' union? Because, I mean, when you asked about other areas, certainly the Parks and Rec area struggles a lot with salary issues.
Sure. Sure. Is it best that I move on, or should we wait until the pops back up? Are we good?
Yeah, it's, you want me to do the vote again? It's 4 yeas and 2 nays.
Yeah, 4 yeas, 2 nays. It showed on the screen, it just duplicated 3 other.
Yeah, the internet glitched or something.
No problem. Next up, we'll move on to our last item, which is item D, the Parks and Recreation, other action for seasonal employee salary and incentive changes at our Oakland County Parks. Do we have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Joliet, support by Commissioner Lubes. And I believe we've got Director Chris Ward. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I think you all know Phil, my bodyguard, by now.
Yeah.
Appreciate your consideration of this. For those of you who were at the last meeting, you recall we had an opportunity to provide some testimony, background. Of course, this all relates to issues we're having with hiring seasonal staff for this upcoming season. Last season, we had some pretty significant challenges at Parks and Rec, which resulted in partial closures, delays, and even the closure of the Waterford Oaks Wave Pool. So we've been trying to get ahead of this all the way through the recruitment season, and we're running a little bit behind what we would normally be at this point in time. So we're again just trying to get ahead of it. We've looked at some of our competitor or other recreation organizations. They're all struggling, especially with lifeguards as well, and have come forward with this request for your approval. The $500 lifeguard bonus for completing 100 hours. So we already have a $300 bonus for completing the training and working for new lifeguards. One of the great things about this is we do have some retaining issues there and getting retention in our returning lifeguards, and so this provides a good benefit and opportunity for them to be able to enjoy that bonus in an equal way. In terms of the 100 hours versus the full season, it's a reasonable statement. We're dealing with a lot of variables right now. If we don't get enough lifeguards, or we might be down to limited hours, 3 days a week, 2 days a week, and so we have to set some limited limit to expectations, because we're not sure we're going to be able to provide 100 hours to everybody, or 150 hours. We think we can provide 100 hours to everybody. We have the $1 an hour bonus for the entire water park staff, which is the lifeguards plus the park attendants and the other folks that help out. Authorization to create a transportation assistance. Last year we had a whole group of staff that had no transportation that we shuttled back and forth from park to park. We see an opportunity to perhaps utilize this to expand our pool of applicants. And then finally, just because this continues to be an evolving situation, we're asking for your permission and authority as basically a fail-safe for up to another $200,000 in fiscal impact to just continue to address salary and incentives as we're getting closer and closer to the season beginning. That provision would require the approval of the Parks and Recreation Commission Chair, our HR Deputy County Executive, and the Director of DMB. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Excellent. Commissioners, questions? I know, I'm sorry.
No, that's
Commissioner-
okay, go ahead.
I know in our previous discussions that was had, we were looking at an estimated cost. Is there an update on that you could just provide us? I know that was a big question that
Yes,
resulted to
yeah.
this meeting today, so please.
Madam Chair, it was submitted and distributed by email the other day. It was also submitted, and I'm hoping it's in your packet for this evening. If not, we can make copies and distribute it out. Or I could go through them item by item if you'd like.
Item summary, it's a breakdown in item summary.
Thank you.
You have it on here, Karen?
Yeah.
Where is it?
Item summary, it's not on the resolution, it's on the item summary.
Okay.
So there again, we've provided you a range because there are a lot of variables there. We're not sure how many employees we're going to be able to recruit. So we've got everything from kind of our current trajectory to
Right here.
hitting our target employment. And then we've got, with the transportation assistance, we have no experience with that. And the fail-safe there is really, dependent on the need, so.
Excellent. Well, as I said during our last Legislative Affairs and Government Operations Committee, I do support this. As a resident of Waterford, I know how important the water part, the wave pool is. And I'm going to call it as the wave pool because that's how we all know it over here. It's the wave pool. And so I appreciate all the efforts that Parks has been putting in. I mean, my goodness, when we heard testimony at our last meeting, you guys are doing every and anything to make sure that we're keeping our parks open. And I understand it, I get it. Given that this is an end of season bonus, we're not really gonna know the total cost. And I think that was where we had a pretty extensive discussion during our last meeting. So I do appreciate you bringing forward some estimations. But I do understand that it's just that because we don't know yet. It sounds like we're still trying to make sure that we have at least the bare minimum so we can keep our parks open. So I continue to support this, so thank you. Commissioners, any other questions or any item for discussion? Commissioner Gershenson.
So, Chris, can you give us an up-to-date picture of which water parks are in jeopardy or which parks are in jeopardy?
Yeah, so we have two water parks. We have one in Madison Heights at Red Oaks, and we have here at Waterford Oaks, the water park, which focused on the wave pool at this point. As I said last season, the attempt was made to open them both, And because there just was not enough lifeguards, they took the lifeguards that were available from Waterford Oaks, chose to close the wave pool there, and transported the lifeguards that were recruited for Waterford Oaks down to Red Oaks, which had a delayed opening in limited hours, and there's some additional features there, like it's the Lazy River, is that right? That they did not fully open up last year. So it's going to be dependent on how many we recruit. We really have been trying to fulfill a commitment to the residents of the area to reopen that wave pool in Waterford Oaks. Every year that we're not open, you know, it really does feel like we're not fully servicing, you know, the surrounding area. And it's also kind of hurting our feeder system of lifeguards for the future as well.
Yeah.
But I thought that park was not in great shape, that water park or that pool over in Waterford, that it needed a lot of work. It's safe to,
It is safe. You know, it's actually a great commentary on our staff who took a lot of it upon themselves to get into that pool and you know, make some needed repairs, and it's in pretty good shape from.
so as of right now, you're hoping to open both?
100%, that's our game plan.
Our goal is to open both, and if Red Oaks has to close some days so we can open both, we're not gonna put all our efforts to open one. We're gonna put some efforts into opening both so we can serve more residents.
And then that Lazy River, I know, is so popular for so many people. Are you thinking that's going to be able to open?
We would love for that to happen. You know, we're trying to focus on the core and then build off of that.
So it's not a priority?
Yeah. Well, it's always a priority to try to open it up, but, you know, we want to make sure people can get in the door first, and then any extra amenities, and we make that available.
It's the most staff intense. I believe it's 9 lifeguards to open it because of the way it was designed and the blind corners. And we can, if we have 9 lifeguards, we can get the wave pool and water side open. So it is a priority to open it because it is everyone's favorite attraction, but it wouldn't look very good just to have the Lazy River open and not the other attractions because they can hold more people.
And so at what point, you know, so we're putting aside $200,000. All the incentives I understand and I do support, but at what point are you going to draw, are you going to think you need to draw on that so that it's not too late, so like it's not July and it's...
Correct. Well, and it's hard to, you know, estimate that and foresee that at this point. There are some positions where we're doing pretty good with recruitment, and some where we're falling behind, like the lifeguards. So we're just simply looking for the authority to make decisions as needed. HR has been very helpful. April's been very helpful. So it's just, you know, getting over here, getting on your calendar, getting before the board. You know, we just don't want to, you know, see unnecessary delays when we're out there. We're holding job fairs all the time. I think we're having one this weekend, right? So, you know, with your approval today, we'll be able to put this out into the community and hopefully improve our recruitment efforts.
And then one more thing, did Macomb institute a similar plan?
I was actually just looking at here on Clinton Metro Parks website. You know, they do have several incentives, one of which is the same with the $1 an hour bonus. There's other local communities. Actually, I was reading about one that's offering $2,500. So we all might want to take a lifeguard training at that point.
One of your point on doing in July, we may have to do something in July to make sure our season lasts as long as we want to last. I mean, our goal is to stay open through Labor Day, so the college kids are a tough one that if they leave for college, we lose them. If there's some incentive to get them, you know, another week or another couple days so they don't cut out as early, we may tap into that just to extend our season, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any further discussion on this item? All right, seeing none, please prompt the vote.
Thank you.
Jackson?
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 6 yeas, 0 nays.
6 yeas, 0 nay, motion carries. Thank you so much, Mr. Ward and Phil, for coming. Thank you. Next up, we'll move on to our final public comment. If there are any individuals who would like to address the Legislative Affairs and Government Operations Committee, now is the time. Please make your way to the head of the table and state your name and community in which you reside in. Good almost evening.
Wow, it is, isn't it? Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name's Catherine Kennedy. I'm from Lake Orion. And I'm actually very concerned that we have so many late-breaking meetings. This was called a special LAGO meeting, and I didn't see any data attached anywhere until today or yesterday. But there's a lot of data that gets attached to these meetings, so I always find that concerning to begin with. I'm a little concerned, too, we have so many wage reopeners and salary increases scheduled when there were just a lot of salary increases that just happened last year. Coulter seemed to have added between 2020 and 2022 394 positions, and we were running in the red. A small, what do they call it, imbalance in the current budgeting. So we're already spending more than we're bringing in on an existing budget. We were off by about $64 million in December when they finally did the audit and said what they actually received in revenue. And I can tell you why. It's because we had so many businesses that went out of business with COVID. So my biggest concern, I don't believe we actually comprehend yet the true impact of where our tax revenue will be once all the dust settles. And the fact that we're already running $4 million consistently in the red, out of balance, they didn't say those words, I can't remember the exact term that was used. But because we had the money to sweep into it, and it's the December 6, 21 Finance Committee, you need to look it up, where they had all the different deficit noted and the M&B management and budget variances from the year-end audit. And that I find terribly concerning because coming from a financial background, a company always does an audit once a year. If you have a big differential or you have problems you need to adjust, you stop now. You don't add any additional spending. You certainly don't remove the security that you need for your community when that's supposed to be job one for government. Yet that's the only area I see reductions. And I see huge welfare programs being introduced, brand new housing trusts, and all these things that are in theory to benefit, but in reality aren't affordable, not viable. And my first home was a HUD house in Detroit. It took me 19 years to move to Lake Orion from there, my fourth house upgrade up. So I guess not that I just think we really need to stop and evaluate what we're doing before we create these programs into perpetuity and all these additional raises with all this extra staff that's grown before even understanding what our revenue will be, because the ultimate, it'll be raising all the property taxes on all the current people, and then they're in trouble. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy. Good evening.
Hi. I'm Sandra Carlian from Novi. Unlike normal, I don't have any notes today. I got here a little bit later, but I was really concerned. And I'm sure I didn't have a chance to even talk to Catherine, but I am concerned like she is about the expenditures. I used to go to a church and the pastor had a financial seminar, and this was the seminar. Spend less than you make. End of seminar. And I thought it made a lot of sense. It's pretty basic. It doesn't have all the hundreds of pages of packets and excuses and reasons and incentives, which I call bribes. Why would you want someone being a lifeguard over our children that wouldn't do it for less? That said, no, I need more money. I need more bonuses. I don't see you drawing the kind of people that are going to protect your liability when someone passes out or dies on that park, because people were there for the money, not for the enjoyment of the experience and the learning that they could do in the saving of people's lives. I am really concerned about thinking that money thrown at school shootings and money thrown at mass transit and money thrown at the Parks and Rec. Number one, there are places that you're thinking about spending money or are spending money that have discriminated against me and against other low-income or people that have made different choices than you about things like masks and things like shots. And if you can't guarantee to me that you will be an equal opportunity provider with your systems that are already existent, and that you won't let people that are unelected make decisions about what we open and what we close, people who have 1090 or 5 masks on when they come to talk to you about our health care in Oakland County, and they do not know the information that I can get freely offline and listen to doctors, frontline doctors, people who are skilled in their areas that people aren't listening to. And it's sad because there's a dearth of information that is being ignored. And I think that Oakland County needs to step up and be a leader and pay attention. We do have the tax base going down because of businesses going out of business. The solution is not to just say, come on, kids, we'll give you a $2,500 bonus, or we've got this slush fund of $200,000, and we can give you something later if you'll just come and be at our parks. I think it's a bad decision.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the Legislative Affairs and Government Operations Committee? Seeing none, I will close public comment. Alrighty, Commissioners, seeing that there is no further business before us, I adjourn at 4:44 p.m. Thank you, everyone.